this was reported really quietly in the news, but Germany was just forced to nationalize the gas giant Uniper. Have a guess why? Yeah, it has something to do with Ukraine, right? It's these wonderful, lovely sanctions on Russia blowing up in their faces again. Well done. You're very smart. So, this is from CNN. Germany is nationalizing Uniper, its biggest importer of natural gas, as part of an €8 billion deal to prevent an energy shortage this winter. Europe has been hit by soaring natural gas and electricity prices. And of course, they say as a result of Russia's invasion, we all know it's because of the sanctions. The German government will hold around 99% of Uniper after injecting new capital and buying out its Finnish parent company Fortum. Uniper provides about 40% of Germany's gas supply and is crucial for large companies and private consumers in Europe's biggest economy. In July, Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced the government would step in to bail out Uniper with a package worth up to €15 billion after it was brought to its knees by months of Russian supply cuts and soaring spot market prices. And once again, when they say Russian supply cuts, the only time, as far as I can tell, that Russia weaponized, if you want to use that verb, gas was just recently when they cut Nord Stream 1. Germany is the one that canceled Nord Stream 2 2 days before the war started. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. Oh no! If only there was this giant, enormous gas pipeline that, was right at Germany's doorstep. If only. I wonder. Russian gas has had to be substituted with costly alternatives, leading to soaring bills for consumers. And of course, they say the situation, this is from Habeck, worsened dramatically since Russia cut off gas supply to Europe through Nord Stream 1 indefinitely on September 1st, citing an oil leak. Russia basically said that if you don't lift the sanctions, the pipeline's not turning back on. Although gas supplies through Nord Stream 1 are suspended, Germany's gas reserves are filled at more than 90% capacity. Still, the energy crisis is not going away. Germany can get through the winter well without Russian gas, but Habeck is warning of really empty supply levels in the period thereafter. EU states and the UK have together committed more than $500 billion in assistance to households and businesses to help them cope with the soaring cost of energy. They talk about Britain capping electricity and gas costs for businesses at less than half the market rate, so that's for 6 months. And then they will also do it for households, capping it at £2,500 for the next 2 years. So, guess what's happened at the same time? It's not just Germany that's had to nationalize its gas giant. The French are also in big trouble, and they have now decided to nationalize Électricité de France, so EDF, right? Basically, the French, their power grid is based off of nuclear energy. So 71% of the electricity in France comes from nuclear reactors. And the French are in big trouble because, number one, even if most of their electricity comes from nuclear, guess what? More than half of their reactors are offline because they're undergoing maintenance. Talk about crappy luck. On top of that, the rivers are running dry, so hydro is also out of the question. And if you wanted to, if you were thinking of getting gas, natural gas to substitute it, well, guess what? The price of gas is, shot up. It's through the roof. So they're also in trouble, and now the French government has gone and nationalized Électricité de France. So same situation like in Germany, right? You have European governments taking control of their energy giants because the sanctions on Russia have completely blown up in their faces, and they have egg on their face, really. So this is from Oil Price, and they talk about how the French government already owns the majority, so 84% of Électricité de France, but is now planning to fully nationalize the company, right? And that's as they're warning of 29 billion euros in losses. I mean, that's astronomical. Nuclear power generation is now at an all-time low. I love this part here in brackets. It says, normally here we would say how much 29 billion euros is in dollars, but the European economy has taken such a downturn, largely thanks to energy woes, that the values of the euro and the dollar are virtually identical. She's absolutely correct. So more than half of EDF's 56 nuclear reactors are offline a record shortage. The industry is dealing with a pileup of delays and stoppages thanks to the pandemic, a series of maintenance issues, including corrosion at some of France's aging reactors, troubles at state-controlled energy group EDF, and a years-long absence of significant new nuclear investment. So, as I was talking about, the rivers running dry in Europe, some French and Swiss nuclear plants don't even have enough water to keep their systems cool. That's another problem, right? Generally, France exports energy thanks to its robust and reliable nuclear sector. Now it's being forced to import energy in a historically tight market. Energy prices are soaring, and of course, we look at Gazprom, which is the Russian state-owned gas company. They've indefinitely cut off natural gas supply to the continent via Nord Stream 1, citing maintenance issues. Now, again, me personally, I don't believe that this is because of maintenance only. The Russians, for 6 months, they were giving gas to Europe. They never tried to cut off the gas or weaponize it. And, the fact that they were still giving Europe any gas after 6 packages of sanctions, you're lucky, honestly. You're lucky they gave you anything at all. They talk about Russia weaponizing energy against Europe. Europe is the one that's trying to cut off Russian revenue. They're explicitly saying, we don't want your gas. We don't want your oil. And when you sell oil and gas overseas, we want to make sure there's no revenue for you. We're going to put a price cap on you. This infrastructure that you spent years building, Nord Stream 2, we don't want it. Russia never said zero gas. We're turning it off after the sanctions started in February. So, their chronology is entirely messed up. They're trying to build some fake narrative. It's just nonsense. Russia has no interest in weaponizing energy. They want the revenue. So that's France being screwed, right? Who's making money from this? The United States. I told you many, many, many months ago. When you have a shortage of gas, you're going to have people trying to bring liquefied natural gas into the continent. So I just thought I'd show you this from last month from Business Insider. Look at the headline. Energy traders are making a killing exporting U.S. natural gas to Europe as prices soar, with some single shipments bringing in $200 million. That's very impressive. That's very impressive. Energy companies and traders are raking in huge profits selling U.S. natural gas to Europe as prices on the continent skyrocket. U.S. exports of natural gas across the Atlantic have surged this year as companies pounce on the huge earnings on offer, while European governments facing a Russian supply squeeze desperately try to fill their storage tanks before winter. Quote, you're not talking about a margin, you're talking about a multiplier, says Segalin, an energy investment banker who hosts the Redefining Energy podcast. He told Business Insider that all in all, it is insane. Companies with gas to sell in the US can fill a large ship and send it across the Atlantic for around $60 million, with the cargo then fetching around $275 million in Europe. Buyers who locked in deals to purchase this U.S. natural gas before the latest surge in European prices would also be making huge profits. Just a little bit of the so-called bright side or silver lining for those very few on the top who are making money. I want to show you this from the New York Times. They're saying that in France, because of the gas shortages, even though 90% of France's storage facilities are full, energy bills for households and businesses have soared. Okay, so in France, they have the biggest nuclear energy arsenal of any European country, and they're one of the least reliant on Russian natural gas. But as I was just telling you, most of their reactors are offline. The output from nuclear energy is the lowest it's been in 3 decades. France's worst drought in 30 years this summer has also lowered river levels, cutting supplies of hydroelectric power, right? So those are 2 things impacted by rivers running dry. So France now faces the unsettling prospect of initiating rolling blackouts in winter and having to import power or resort to coal-fired plants to meet its energy needs. Scenarios the government is desperate to avoid. And then here they talk about how all these energy-intensive companies like steel and chemical and glass makers, they're basically having to lay off a bunch of their employees. This maker of glasses for, that they use in bistros and so on, they're putting their furnaces on standby for 4 months, and 250 employees to save cash are on furlough. They talk about another maker of goblets, 1,650 out of 5,000 employees put on partial furlough. It's the lovely Russian sanctions obviously working very well. And the funniest thing to me, besides the sentence I read to you, where the French are considering returning to coal, right, and burning firewood, it's not a joke, right? There are schools in France that are actually preparing to burn firewood because of how bad it is. Here's this also from the New York Times. Guess what Germany's doing? Germany, that's been railing about nuclear energy for decades, they suddenly are gonna. They're suddenly put off closing 2 of their nuclear reactors. Can you imagine? So they were set to close them this year, and now all of a sudden they want to run them and keep them open because they've screwed themselves. I mean, I've never seen such stupidity in my entire life. You have a huge gas pipeline, Nord Stream 2, at your doorstep, straight from Russia, and you not only close that, you go and slap the Russians with sanctions so they close Nord Stream 1, and then you go back to coal? What is this, like, pre-industrial revolution challenge? What are they doing? These people are so stupid. They are so stupid. It's unbelievable. I have never seen a bigger case of someone shooting themselves in the foot. Unreal. They've achieved nothing. They've achieved absolutely nothing. They have to spend all this money bailing out their energy giants. There's not enough energy. The facilities are full, but the bills are still high. Oil prices are through the roof. Russia's still making bank, and you have to now keep nuclear facilities open after telling people for 2 decades that you hate nuclear energy. Or you can go back to coal. That's also another, 19th century challenge. I mean, this is really the brilliance of European politicians. You can see they're so smart. They have everything under control, right? Everything's going well. And you guys know, I've just talked to you about Germany and France. We talked about the UK as well. You have businesses closing down. Their energy bills have tripled. It's a complete disaster, even within the EU and without. This is only going to get worse, in my opinion. And I think it's very tragic, and I'm speechless. I'm literally speechless.